Mary had a little lamb. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
When it was suggested that I meet with Donald Trump Jr., I met him in a private situation. It was a private meeting, not related at all to the fact that he was the son of the candidate. And the whole story which I had was spelled out. It was the same for everyone, including for Donald Trump Jr., who, having listened to my story, didn't understand, based on our conversation, how he could help me.
Well, Veselnitskaya also said that she had no compromising information to offer about the campaign of Hillary Clinton. She also denied any connection with the Kremlin, and for their part, the Kremlin themselves have said they don't even know who this lawyer is, and certainly don't monitor her movements and her meetings. And so when it comes to the allegations of Kremlin meddling in US politics, this isn't perhaps the smoking gun that some people have hoped it would be.
Oh, yeah, but it is. Why was that so low? Natalia Veselnitskaya, whose name, our people know, she is a Russian agent. Just found that out today. Isn't that something? She's the one that was at the Trump Tower meeting with Jared and with, Junior and Manafort. And she's a Russian agent. Isn't that something? I'm shocked. So Natalia Veselnitskaya is a Russian agent. And also, I need to jog your memory about what she was here doing. She was here as an attorney representing a Russian company called Prevezon. You remember those shows we did about Prevezon and Bill Browder? Yes, well, turns out that what Prevezon was doing was she was the lawyer, the lead counsel for the Prevezon company, which was owned by a Russian guy named Kachev, and she was defending Prevezon. Prevezon had been accused of stealing Bill Browder's money, essentially. Prevezon had been accused of stealing $230 million and taking the money out of the Russian treasury and putting it in chunks into the United States, into New York real estate. And that's all we knew back then. And she was the lead attorney. And the prosecutor on that case was Preet Bharara, who got fired. Remember? So Donald Trump comes in. All this stuff happens at Trump Tower. Natalia Veselnitskaya says, she's sent by the Russian government now, is what she's saying. Yuri Chaika, who is the lead, prosecutor in Russia, who's a direct, relation to Vladimir Putin. She was in close contact with him throughout this whole thing. And what the Russian government wanted was for the Prevezon case to go away. That's what they wanted, because the Prevezon case was the key that unlocked the door to all the money laundering, the laundering that was done on the Russian side, and who took it here on the American side. The New York real estate, apparently it was $230 million being taken out of Russia in chunks, being invested into New York real estate. That New York real estate was an investor in Jared Kushner's businesses, a guy named Lev, who is, they call him the King of Diamonds. It all had to do with a lot of Orthodox Jews down in the Diamond District in Manhattan who were investing in Jared Kushner's, businesses, and also investing in Russian businesses in Prevezon. And one of the things that happened was Lev, we'll just call him Lev. Lev was a partner in Prevezon, but Lev was also, funding Jared Kushner. He was helping Jared Kushner stay afloat. He was, and there were also properties that were being built on Pine Street in Manhattan. And some of those residences were appropriated. They were taken, confiscated by our government, by Preet Bharara and the prosecutors in New York, pending the result of the Prevezon case, right? because they were suspectedly, they were suspect properties that were bought with Russian laundered money. Well, they needed that Prevezon case to be settled for all these reasons. Evidence of money laundering, stealing from Bill Browder, all this stuff, right? So the very first thing that Natalia Veselnitskaya talked to them about in Trump Tower was the Prevezon case. They needed it settled. And in exchange, they would, give them dirt on Hillary Clinton. The Russians had collected it. They would give it. They would provide it. They would put it out there. They would do it. And so pretty much, everybody, Natalia Veselnitskaya, she says she's an independent attorney. She's only working on the Prevezon case. That's why she was here. She was here during the time of the Trump Tower meeting to oversee the Prevezon case. And it's just so interesting how she was here to do a couple things. Drop the Prevezon case, fire Preet Bharara, get rid of the prosecutor, just like they want to fire Mueller, just like they want to fire James Comey. Just fire the prosecutor, drop the sanctions, and we'll get dirt out on Hillary. And right after that meeting is when, WikiLeaks started dumping those documents. So, now we find out that Natalia Veselnitskaya really was a Russian agent. And this is what Bill Browder had been saying all along. And, he's been trying to explain this. He gave Senate testimony. Now, what's really creepy is, Jared Kushner, some people might point out that Jared Kushner hasn't been called by Robert Mueller to testify. No, but he's been called by the intelligence committees, in both in the House and the Senate. And so Mueller doesn't really need to talk to Jared. All he needs is the paper and the previous testimony that he gave under oath to Congress. He doesn't even need to talk to Jared. It's already got him.
You don't just risk losing your money in Russia. You risk dying in Russia. And I don't say that lightly. Sergei Magnitsky, my lawyer, is dead. They tried to kill the family's lawyer by throwing him off a fourth-floor apartment building. A member of the Russian opposition who's helped us with the Magnitsky campaign was poisoned within an inch of his life. A whistleblower who came forward died jogging outside his home in Surrey. They kill lots of people, and all it takes is one wrong step doing business in Russia, and you're dead. And so this place is absolutely, completely uninvestable. I would advise everyone to stay as far away from Russia as possible.
That was Bill Browder way back. That's way back, okay? So let me go just a year ago, okay? Just 1 year ago, and I'm gonna read you this, okay? This is from The Guardian on July 24th of 2017. Jared Kushner, son-in-law of Donald Trump, who acts as his senior White House advisor. Oh, my God. You remember, Jared just got his clearance snatched away from him, but he was operating with top secret clearance for a really stinking long time. Wasn't until Rob Porter's ex-wives came forward and said Rob Porter is a batterer. He beat me, blah, blah, blah. He also, pulled me out of a shower. That Kelly got serious about looking at these security clearances, right? And Jared, was a byproduct of Rob Porter, not of, any of this. Okay. So Jared, senior White House advisor, secured a multi-million-dollar Manhattan real estate deal with a Soviet-born oligarch whose company was cited in a major New York money laundering case now being investigated by members of Congress. That's the Prevezon case. Just saying. A Guardian investigation has established a series of overlapping ties and relationships involving alleged Russian money laundering, New York real estate deals, and members of Trump's inner circle. They include a 2015 sale of part of the old New York Times building in Manhattan involving Kushner and a billionaire real estate tycoon and diamond mogul Lev Leviv. The ties between Trump family real estate deals and Russian money interests are attracting growing interest from the Justice Department special counsel Robert Mueller as he seeks to determine whether the Trump campaign collaborated with Russia to distort the outcome of the 2016 race. Mueller has reportedly expanded his inquiry to look at real estate deals involving the Trump organization as well as Kushner's financing. Kushner, and this is last year, will go before the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee on Monday in a closed session of the panel's inquiry into Russian interference in the election in what could be a pivotal hearing in the affair. Well, this did happen, okay? He was behind closed doors. He was under oath. He did give the Senate testimony. Okay, we weren't allowed to hear it, but it's there. It's definitely, under oath. All right. Lebev, a global tycoon known as the King of Diamonds, was a business partner of the Russian-owned company Prevezon Holdings that was the center of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit launched in New York under the leadership of U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara. That's the Southern District of New York, okay? SDNY, as we all have come to know it now. Under the leadership of U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara, who was fired by Trump in March. Prosecutors pursued Prevezon for allegedly attempting to use Manhattan real estate deals to launder money stolen from the Russian treasury. The scam had been uncovered by Sergei Magnitsky, an accountant who died in 2009 in a Moscow jail. That's Bill Browder's attorney, hence the Magnitsky Acts, which equal sanctions. U.S. sanctions against Russia imposed after Magnitsky's death were a central topic of conversation at the notorious Trump Tower meeting last June between Kushner, Trump Jr., Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort, and a Russian lawyer with ties to the Kremlin, Natalia Veselnitskaya. 2 days before, this is the quid pro quo. This is why this is really important. 2 days before it was due to open in court in May, the Prevezon case was suddenly settled for $6 million with no admission of guilt on the part of the defendants. But since details of the Trump Tower meeting emerged, the abrupt settlement of the Prevezon case has come under renewed scrutiny from congressional investigators. 4 Russians attended the meeting. I think it's 5 now. 4 Russians attended the meeting, led by Natalia Veselnitskaya, a lawyer with known Kremlin connections, who acted as legal counsel for Prevezon in the money laundering case, and who called the $6 million settlement so slight, quote, "It seemed almost an apology from the U.S. government," end quote. 16 Democratic members of the House Judiciary Committee have now written to the Justice Department in light of the Trump Tower meeting, demanding to know whether there was any interference behind the decision to avoid the trial. Okay, so here's the quid pro quo. She comes to New York, goes to Trump Tower, tells them she's got dirt on Hillary Clinton, but I need some stuff, okay? We need those Magnitsky Act sanctions, that stupid Bill Browder, that son of a bitch. We need those reversed because it's killing the oligarchs that have been paying Putin 50% of their earnings, making Putin the richest man in the world, by the way, this kickback. It's mafia. It's Russian mob, right? This is how Putin got so rich. Every business that wants to do business in Russia has to kick back to Vlad 50%. 50. And that's how Putin became Putin. And one of the people that he used as an example was this guy, Kordakovsky. Okay. Now, Kordakovsky was, taken by, he was disappeared, taken from his jet, tried, by Putin, sentenced to 10 years in prison. Kordakovsky is now out of prison. And Kordakovsky is the person who corroborated emails today that prove that Natalia Veselnitskaya was indeed Putin's agent here in the United States, meeting with Trump Jr., Manafort, Jared, etc. in the Trump Tower meeting. Kordakovsky, that's the guy. All right, but not to confuse you. The quid pro quo was she came here and she said, we can make you win. We can do this. I got dirt on Hillary Clinton, but here's the deal. I need this Prevezon case settled the minute you get into office, number one. And number two, those sanctions, those Magnitsky sanctions have got to come off. Deal. Done. She leaves. It only took 10 minutes. She leaves. As soon as Trump becomes president, the Prevezon, Preet Bharara is fired in March. He's the lead prosecutor on the Prevezon case. And in May, suddenly the $230 million, case of money laundering suddenly disappears off the radar screen. Preet's gone. And they settle it for $6 million lousy dollars. And this other guy's property, which was seized as part of the Prevezon case by the government, is released back to him. And he is an investor in Jared's businesses. The Pine Street real estate had been seized in the money laundering case of Prevezon, and now all of a sudden it's settled. Here's your property back. Wow, that's what this is.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
You know, it's really twisted. The House Republicans have closed their investigation into all of this, the Russian meddling in the election, the conspiracy between the Trumps and the Russians, between the Kushner and the Russians, between Manafort and the they've closed. They've released some redacted, stupid report today, okay, saying that there's no evidence that the Trump campaign colluded, coordinated, or conspired with the Russian government. The Democrats will not endorse this. They will not sign on to this report, and they are continuing as best they can to investigate. Now, what's interesting is it's all going to fall on Bob Mueller. So Adam Schiff was on CNN briefly this afternoon with Jim Sciutto, and this is the relevant portion of Adam Schiff's conversation with Jim Sciutto regarding Natalia Veselnitskaya. Now, knowing what you now know, what I told you, what I laid out, and these are from my old articles that I've saved all this time.
You've noted that there was a follow-up communication from this loyal Veselnitskaya, who we now know was an informant for the Russian government, after Trump's election. What did she say?
Well, yes, Veselnitskaya reaches back to the Trump family right after the election saying, we want to follow up now on this request we have on the Magnitsky Act. So clearly there's an expectation there on the Russian side that they may now have success with the Magnitsky Act. Given that the prior meeting and communications dealt with the offer of help and the request on the Russian part for repeal of Magnitsky, it certainly seems like the Russians were ready for payback.
It looks to you, you're saying it has the impression of a quid pro quo.
It certainly does. Certainly the Russians thought they had reason to believe after the campaign that they now might get the help that they sought in that meeting in Trump Tower.
And the meeting in Trump Tower, the help that they sought, was not just the repeal of the Magnitsky Act, which are sanctions on certain Russian oligarchs for laundering money into the United States and stealing from Bill Browder $230 million. What's being left out here is the Prevezon case. The follow-up, the action she was requesting was settle the Prevezon case, end it now, and repeal the Magnitsky Act. It was two things she came to get, and now she's following up. And she's saying, okay, we did what we said we were going to do for you. Now you do what you said you were going to do for us. Drop the Prevezon. And she's the lead lawyer. She's the lead defense attorney for the Russian company Prevezon. And I must tell you, the court documents and the company records show that Lev, okay, this King of Diamonds guy from New York, he was cited in the Prevezon case as a business partner of the defendants. And in 2008, when all this Russian money started pouring in, according to Donald Trump Jr., we're seeing a disproportionate amount of our assets coming in from Russia. There's a big market for high-end real estate all of a sudden coming from Russia. So in 2008, Prevezon enters into a partnership with this Lev guy, okay? And Prevezon buys a stake in 4 of Lev's subsidiaries that are located in the Netherlands, in Holland. And 5 years later, this Lev company tries to return the money to Prevezon, but the money is intercepted by Dutch authorities at the request of the U.S. government as part of the investigation into the Prevezon money laundering. That's how long this Prevezon case has been going on. So also in Manhattan, Lev is selling condominiums to Prevezon Holdings from one of his landmark developments, 20 Pine Street. When the case actually gets very, very heated up, his properties are seized, his assets are seized by the government pending the result of the Prevezon case because they needed assets to return. You know, to get the laundered money, they needed to take the assets that were bought with the laundered money, and so they confiscated his properties. You best believe he went to Jared and said, you better end this, you better. And Natalia Veselnitskaya, who's on the Russian side of it, she's also screaming at them. And so the follow-up phone call had to be her saying, settle the Prevezon case. President becomes president January 20th. In March, Preet Bharara, the lead prosecutor on this case, is fired. And in May, Lev gets all his stuff back. In May, they return all his apartments, $6 million in assets, all released as part of the settlement in May. Now, The Guardian has tried to talk to Jared Kushner and Lev for comment, but they won't. They haven't responded. But this was all about money laundering. Dennis Katzev, he is the owner of Prevezon. He is the sole shareholder in Prevezon. And Katzev is exactly who Bill Browder was talking to us about back when we had him on the show a couple times. And, it was very hard to follow anything except the Magnitsky sanctions. But I started digging into that Prevezon case. I still have the questions I asked him. And Katzev's name is in one of the questions, and he answers. He's the sole shareholder in Prevezon. Magnitsky was his lawyer. Magnitsky discovered this massive tax fraud. This tax fraud was $230 million, and Prevezon was taking that $230 million in little chunks, well, not little, but in chunks, and laundering it in the United States through New York real estate. When Magnitsky figured this out, he blew the whistle on this scam, and Putin had him arrested, and Putin put him in jail, and he died in jail after being beaten in jail and being denied medical treatment. And he was beaten by the guards with rubber hoses. Okay, he had sepsis. He was sick. And as he was sick and dying, they just beat him to death. And that's the Magnitsky Act, right? So Veselnitskaya not only acted as Prevezon's Russian counsel in this money laundering case and the leading lobbyist against the Magnitsky sanctions, but she is the one who raised these subjects at the Trump Tower meeting with Junior and Kushner. And this only took 10 minutes. Now, the Democrats know this because they know that there was a follow-up phone call. Check this out. This is what Adam Schiff told Jim Sciutto today about that follow-up phone call.
Prior to the Trump Tower meeting, there were phone calls in phone logs from Donald Trump Jr. What did those phone logs show you?
Yeah, this is very significant. Don Jr., prior to the meeting, when this is being discussed by email, because it's of this sensitive nature and they don't want to do it by email, arranges to call Amin Agalarov. This is the son of this oligarch close to Putin. And we have these two calls to Amin. And the significant thing is they're separated by a third call to a blocked number. Now, we sought to find out, is that blocked number Donald Trump's blocked number? Because we found out during the investigation that Donald Trump used a blocked number during the campaign. We asked to subpoena the phone records so we could match up. Did Donald Trump receive a call at the same time Donald Jr. was making that call, to find out, did the president's son seek the president's permission, the go-ahead to go forward with this meeting? The Republicans refused. They didn't want to know. They wouldn't ask the phone company for those records. That tells you a lot about the fundamental unseriousness, really the head in sand approach the GOP took.
Now, you don't have hard evidence that that block number is the president's. It's just a theory that you wanted to check out by revealing.
No credible investigator would leave that lead unchecked. Now, I have to imagine that Bob Mueller will subpoena those records if he hasn't already. And I would hope that when Bob Mueller sits down to interview Donald Trump, he asks the president, was that phone call to you?
Seriously, dude, I can't believe. So the Republicans in the House closed their investigation without ever looking at the phone records, without ever asking a question about who did Junior call and whose block number was that, and can we get a subpoena from the phone company to find out who was the owner of that block number, or get Donald Trump's phone records and see if he received a call from Junior at the same time Junior is making a call to a blocked number, knowing that Donald Trump has a blocked number. This is just so dirty. It's unbelievable. And this is who these people are. This is what they've been doing. And all this Russian money that came in to rescue Donald Trump after his bankruptcy, the Russians have been looking for an American who they could cultivate to do a couple things for the Russians. One, end this case into money laundering, the Prevezon case, where our prosecutors in these United States were tipped off back in 2007 and 2008 that there was all this Russian money laundering going on in the United States through real estate holdings, and that those real estate holdings belong to various people who were named, like Lev Lviv and Jared Kushner. And, Donald Trump Jr. Saying, a lot of Russian money is coming into Trump Tower. And it's like amazing how much, Russian investment there suddenly is in high-end real estate. And they built Sunny Isles down here in Florida with Russian money. And they built, Trump Soho with Felix Sater, doing the fundraising with Michael Cohen, doing the attracting Russian, capital and Russian, buyers. And no one lives in these apartments. They're just laundering the money. And our U.S. attorney in the Southern District, they get hip to this and they start an investigation. Plus, you have Bill Browder, who is talking to the prosecutors and saying, $230 million should be the amount that you're going to find was laundered in one instance, because that's how much was stolen from me through the Russian treasury. I had to pay tax, right? Somebody went in and they created a tax, obligation for me to pay the Russian government. I thought it was just, paying off Putin or whatever. But no, they were stealing the money and then they were investing it in chunks in U.S. real estate, and it was, Kushner, and it was Lev Lviv, and it was Trump, and it was, Trump's, and Felix Sater, and all these guys, and Michael Cohen, and all these guys, And, meanwhile, his main focus was really not getting his money back as much as it was defending making everyone understand the human rights abuses in Russia if you are a whistleblower and, you find that money's being stolen from people who are trying to do business in Russia, like Browder was. So, Browder, was campaigning on behalf of his dead lawyer. That's the Magnitsky Act. But he had so much valuable information about the Prevezon case, which mysteriously, it's been going on since, 2007. And all of a sudden, we get Donald Trump as the president of the United States, and he fires the lead prosecutor, Preet Bharara, and then settles the case quietly, and returns Lev's properties. And, $6 million is, the settlement on $230 million. And this is what the quid pro quo was. This is what Russia wanted. They, we couldn't. Trump's trying to, take the sanctions off Russia, trying to take the sanctions off, and Russia sees that Trump is a willing fool. He's willing to play this game. He's willing to do it. So now Russia goes into Syria, like daring Trump to do something. Trump does nothing. Then Syria, gasses people, and we make this fake, attempt to bomb a runway, and then the next morning the runway is up and running, and they go, okay, let's see how far we can push this. Let's see how far we can push this, because we really want to be in Iran. We really want to be in Syria with Iran, because Iran won the Iraq war. We need new places to expand. We need access to the Mediterranean. Syria provides that for us, number one. And number two, it's an authoritarian dictatorship, and that's what we are, and that's how we know how to operate. So, let's see if we could get Trump to give us Syria. Let's see if we could get him to give us that. And let's see if we can get Trump to, take get out of the Iran deal, so Iran can enrich, uranium and, go back to being a nuclear power, which is what we need Iran to be, because we're going to ally with Iran, and we need a nuclear power in the Middle East. And Russia, we want to be in charge of that nuclear power, and we can help them. We've got all the technology and whatever it is, and blah blah blah. At the same breath, Russia, they're playing three-dimensional chess. They're also saying, if the United States pulls out of the Iran deal, if they do that, it will tear apart NATO, and the United States will have no allies left in the world. What they'll be left with is a nuclear Iran, Syria belonging to us, and Iran will share it, and all this oil revenue. And quite frankly, we can tear up NATO at the same time. And this man is an idiot, and he'll do it. Because, look, he did all this for a little bit of money. It's a beautiful day, and you did all this for what? That's your friend in the wood chipper there? And you did all this for a little bit of money. Oh, my God. And I'm telling you, Mueller is probably so incensed at what he's finding with regard to not just James Comey's firing, but Preet Bharara's as well. I'm so serious. And why? And they keep trying to develop these back channels to Russia to have these conversations because they don't want the intelligence community listening in to anything that, Jared is saying. And Jared had like so much sensitive material in front of him with an interim clearance that's since been revoked. Holy crap.
There's been a lot of talk about the attempt to establish a back channel between the Trump campaign and Russia, both before and after the election. You mentioned that there was an email from an NRA official discussing this very thing. What did that email show?
Rick Erickson, who was a deeply involved member of the NRA and also had associates with the Trump campaign, emails Rick Dearborn, who worked extensively with Jeff Sessions,
Chief of
saying,
Staff.
I'm reaching out to you and Sessions. I'm working on establishing a back channel with the Russians. They want to do this through the NRA and make their first contact at the NRA convention with the Trump campaign. We sought to follow up on that and were stymied by the Republicans. But here you have, in black and white, evidence that there was an effort by the Russians to use the NRA as their channel, one of their channels to the Trump campaign.
To use the NRA. And was there also evidence of money from Russia going towards the NRA?
You know, there have been allegations that the Russians were going to funnel money through the NRA. And we sought to investigate that. There were witnesses with direct knowledge regarding those allegations that we sought to bring in. The Republicans refused. Now, we are sending out letters to invite those witnesses in. We'll see whether they're willing to cooperate.
Can we assume that Robert Mueller is looking down that same line of inquiry?
I would fully expect that he is.
Oh, my God. So all this stuff about the NRA being a vessel for Russian money, it's starting to look very, 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 very true. And that this is how $30 million was spent on Donald Trump's campaign by the NRA. Russian money pouring into the NRA, using the NRA as a go-between, using the NRA to launder the Russian donations, the Russian campaign financing of one Donald Trump. Donald Trump did get $30 million from the NRA, the most the NRA has ever spent on a single candidate in the history of the NRA. Where did all this money come from? Looks like it came from Russia. And Donald Trump on the campaign trail, I'm spending my own money. I'm rich. I'm very rich. He didn't spend his own money. Oh, and by the way, Jared Kushner, he was the guy in charge of the digital operation, too. Yeah, remember?
A foreign agent out to sabotage the American elections, our greatest enemy on the planet.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
What is the importance, in your view, of this admission by this Russian lawyer that she wasn't just a private attorney, but she was working, in effect, for the Russian government?
Well, it certainly corroborates what we have seen of Veselnitskaya. She wasn't some remote third party that was only interested in adoption. She was working to undermine the U.S. policy, the Magnitsky Act, these sanctions on Russia. And one of the things, Jim, you'll find in our minority views, which I think is very pertinent to this, is Dana Rohrabacher testified before our committee that he had a chance encounter with her in Europe where she showed up unexpectedly at his hotel. And it was his conclusion that essentially this could not have been a coincidence, that she had links to Russian intelligence. And certainly I think what we have seen of her contacts within the Russian government, as well as her persistence in terms of one of Putin's top priorities, would indicate this is not a solo agent. This is someone working on behalf of the Kremlin.
Do you see in the pattern of behavior here, the reaching out, the offering of a quid pro quo, saying, and plus we have this dirt on Hillary Clinton that we might want to give you, even things like that, showing up in the lobby of a hotel to meet with another foreigner, based on what you know about how Russian intelligence services behave, is this prepping a contact, in effect?
Oh, absolutely. This is classic Russian tradecraft. They're not going to send a card-carrying SVR, their CIA member, to meet a foreign national unless they're already recruited. They're going to send intermediaries. They're going to send people like this Maltese professor who initiated the contact with another Trump campaign person, George Papadopoulos, So Veselinskaya very much fits this. It gives them some level of plausible deniability, but this is exactly what you would expect the Russians to do. And of course, the reaction that she got from the Trump campaign was, we would love to have your help. We'd love to have the Russian government's help. And more than that, we're disappointed that the material you gave us in this meeting wasn't better dirt, because after all, the Russians had told Papadopoulos they had the stolen emails, and that's what the Trump campaign really wanted. Interestingly, Jim, we set this out in our Minority Views. It's only days after that meeting in Trump Tower when it appears the Russians give the stolen emails to WikiLeaks for public dissemination.
There's your quid pro quo, everybody. There it is. And that's a conspiracy to defraud the United States. That is what this is. This is a conspiracy case, and there are so many pieces of this crazy puzzle that have been coming together recently. And, this idea that I always believed that Natalia Veselnitskaya was working for Yuri Chaika, who is the lead prosecutor in Russia, and that she was in direct communications with him on this Prevezon case to get all this money laundering investigation stopped into this oligarch, Katsev, who is the sole shareholder of Prevezon, who was also, and this Kushner real estate partner, Lev Lviv, who had his assets taken by our U.S. government during the Prevezon trial. So you had Kushner's side of the deal wanting it over. You had the Russians wanting it over. You had Natalia that was ordered to get it done and get it over. And it was Bill Browder who literally caused the United States to look into all this money laundering that was going on in the United States by Russia into real estate properties, Jared Kushner's properties, Trump properties, Jr., all of them. There's so much Russian money coming in. There's so much. And that's how we got this case. And then the quid pro quo, obviously, was Natalia Veselnitskaya came here, and she said it would be really good if you could get rid of the Magnitsky sanctions on these oligarchs because, it's really tamping down Putin's collections, right? Because Putin gets 50% kickback from every Russian oligarch. This is how Putin became the richest man in the world. 50% kickback. That's his mob payment. That's his VIG. That's what he gets paid. That's his tribute. Okay? That's what it costs. If you want to be an oligarch in Russia, you have to agree that you'll get 50% of all the proceeds from your dirty business to Vlad. And Vlad was seeing, a little crimp in his, collections because of the United States and the sanctions. But the big damn deal, the thing he really, and I mean, he was so furious, Bill Browder, that's why Bill Browder is on a hit list. That's why Bill Browder is somebody that Putin wants dead. But Natalia was sent here on behalf of the Russian prosecutor at least to end this Prevezon case, which was a window into all of this. And she was successful in doing that because as soon as Trump became president, first she goes to the meeting. 2 days later, they give the material to Julian Assange. The Russians do. They give it to Julian Assange to begin dissemination of the private DNC emails, the Debbie Wasserman Schultz, saying Bernie's not a good Jew, he's a lapsed Jew or whatever she said, right? Remember that? And everybody's outraged, and all this contretemps within the Democratic Party just split the whole voting population of Democrats in pieces, and the burn, people wouldn't vote for her because they were so, they were feeling the burn. I felt the burn. Must be an infection of some sort, And this is how they started tearing the Democratic Party apart. Okay, it's working on our. Now all of a sudden Trump wins. They call and they go, "Where's our part of the bar? We need this Prevezon case settled right freaking now." So they fire Preet Bharara in March, and in May, the Southern District of New York settles this case that's been going on for years. All of a sudden, like on a whim, they just end the case, right? It's just like, okay, pay $6 million. And then we'll return Lev's property, which made, Lev very happy. Jared had proven, that he was dirty enough for Lev, and, Lev would, Oh my God, this is just, this is heinous. And it's all for business. It's all for real estate. It's all for dirty, dirty real estate business. Carrie in Georgia.
Hey, Randy.
Hi, Carrie.
So exactly, you're talking exactly where I want to go.
Oh, good.
Who, at the Justice Department, at the SDNY, made the decision to settle that case that way?
His name is Joon, Joon, Kim, Kim. He was the acting U.S. attorney after Preet Bharara was fired. And what's really interesting about him is he's also the prosecutor of Anthony Weiner.
I can just say,
Yes, so Joon Kim is the person that actually ordered Anthony Weiner's computer seized.
But he was also...
And on Anthony Weiner's computer, suddenly all this Hillary email shows up, forcing James Comey to reopen the investigation into Hillary. And Joon Kim, by the way, he worked at a private law firm named Cleary, Gottlieb, Steen and Hamilton for almost, he was a partner in litigation and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden he goes to the Southern District of New York as chief counsel in 2013. And then as soon as he's done with the Prevezon case and as soon as he's done with the Anthony Weiner case, he goes back to his law firm. He's back at Cleary, Gottlieb, Steen and Hamilton now.
Interesting.
Isn't it? Isn't it fascinating?
The explanation at the time was that it would be cheaper to settle for this measly amount of money rather than get the expense of a trial.
The trial was 2 days away from opening. The settlement came 2 days away from opening the trial, which means all the discovery, all the interrogatories, all the paperwork, every piece of it was all already done. The case was, in people's, school supplies already. It was in briefcases and banker boxes, and it was all this work had already been completed, and the prosecutors knew what they had. And they knew that they had a case that would, they believe would prevail beyond a reasonable doubt. So it was 2 days before the trial started that all of a sudden Joon Kim says, oh, all right, I'll settle the case. So all the expenses were already incurred. So this idea that we were doing it to save money is bogus because the money is all in the pretrial stuff. The money is all in the discovery. It's in the interrogatories. It's in the deposition taking. It's in the all the organization by the team of lawyers that, at Justice that, put their hours into. And they were ready to present their case. It was 2 days before the case, was to begin that they settled it.
So do you think Mueller has his eye on this?
Oh, my God, yes. Oh, for Pete's sake. If I have my eye on it, how could Mueller not have his eye on it? Really, come on. I have an honorary law degree. Do you know what I mean? I didn't even graduate, I don't even have an associate's degree, for Pete's sake. Of course he knows.
Okay, good.
Yes. I'm telling you, and this is something that Preet Bharara can't talk about on the TV. But we've always known he got a raw deal. We always knew he was, the lead counsel in the Prevezon case, the lead prosecutor in the Prevezon case, and that is why he was fired. But he can't talk about that. Just like James Comey with all these interviews, James Comey, they keep saying, do you think he obstructed? And he goes, well, that's something for Mueller to decide. I can't, right? Because they will taint the case. But I promise you, Preet Bharara is going to be vindicated in the end. And it is just so interesting that you have a private practice attorney suddenly rejoining the Southern District of New York and then, settling this Prevezon case, prosecuting Anthony Weiner, and then after that going back to his old law firm.
Mary had a little the fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Does it bolster a conspiracy case if the person on the other end has these more substantial ties? Or would the Trump campaign have to know that? They would have to know how substantial those ties are.
The Trump campaign wouldn't necessarily have to know whether she's affiliated with Russian intelligence or simply working on behalf of Putin or an oligarch close to Putin. All they would need to know is that the Russian government is trying to help their campaign, that this is unlawful, and they accept that help, and they coordinate in the receipt of that help. That would be a criminal conspiracy. Interestingly, for people who wonder, what does collusion look like when it's charged as a crime? Bob Mueller has told us. In the indictment of the 13 Russians, the indictment is a conspiracy to defraud the United States. And the interesting thing about that indictment, it indicts the Russians on the social media campaign. It makes no mention of the hacking and dumping operation, the dirt on Hillary Clinton that the Trump campaign was so eager to get. Now, why is that? It's not for lack of evidence.
You think it's because that line of inquiry is still open?
I think it's because that line of inquiry involves U.S. persons. And either the Mueller team has not decided yet whether to charge U.S. persons, or they've already made that decision, and that's why they kept that part of the conspiracy
quiet. Yeah, that's why they kept that part of the conspiracy out of the indictment of the Russians. Now, what's really interesting about where Adam Schiff just went is the digital portion. Now, we know 13 Russian individuals and 2 Russian companies have been, indicted. We will never get them into court. But what's interesting is Jared Kushner was in charge of the Trump digital portion of the campaign. And Jared is the one who hired this guy that we never heard of, and that they had Brad Parscale down there in Texas. Brad Parscale, who apparently was working with Cambridge Analytica, who obviously, was a British defense contractor that set up a shell corporation in Delaware in order to hide the fact that it was another foreign entity that was inserting itself into our elections. So Jared is very international in his crimes. He's very international in his reach arounds. You know what I mean? He likes foreign reach arounds. So this is so interesting, and it's just so fascinating that Brad Parscale, this who always amazed me, that this little guy who was walking around Barnes and Noble tapping people on the shoulder saying $1,500 like a build your website. Now all of a sudden he's like he's got $10 million in Trump business, and he's in charge of Trump Digital and this micro targeting, and he's telling you I could create 10,000 ads a day, and I can see whether or not certain people like green buttons and certain people like red buttons. I mean, this is a guy who literally months before was walking around Barnes & Noble saying, hey, you want to, can I build you a website? Can I build you a website? Can I build you a website? It's just so amazing. All right, Scott in Los Angeles.
Hello, Rand.
Hello.
Nice to speak to you again. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, you bastard. Happy Friday. Yeah. Everybody support the show this weekend. Thank you. It's almost the first of the month. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
The bill.
Yes, my hands are shaking. I went near the checkbook today. I almost died.
That's right.
Yes.
You got to pay them, guys.
Got to pay to play.
It's
America.
My job. I'm a legal recruiter. I headhunt attorneys for law firms.
Oh, do you?
Commission when they get hired. And I happen to have placed certain DOJ attorneys out of the DOJ since Trump came into office in these big law firms. Some of the names, so whenever you name drop these law firms, I go, she knows what she's talking about. I know these attorneys by name. I've dealt with some of them, and I just want everyone to know, listening, as someone who kind of deals with it on the other end of things, you know every damn thing you're talking about, and everything you have said has come true. And the research is mind-blowing. I don't know how you have the time or money to do it, but I just know from dealing with some names you've spoken about on this show directly, you know what you're talking about. And this stuff is going down. This stuff is going down, and it's real. This is real. This is crazy what's happening. So That's all.
It is. And you know what it reminds me of? You ever see The Devil's Advocate?
Oh, yes.
With Keanu Reeves overacting through the whole thing, but and Charlize Theron giving like an Academy Award winning performance, on the other side of Keanu Reeves. I mean, that right there should get a separate award. But that particular movie was about how the law, if the devil came back, okay, he would come back as a big corporate lawyer. Because the law is into everything evil and unholy, is what it is.
It's crazy. Yeah, and it's crazy. And the thing with the Comey, and I get shit from someone who I said shit. Sorry, you too.
Sorry.
Some of my friends, they get mad that I'm with you with Comey. I feel like
I know
Comey is a man of the law. I believe that.
He is.
And both sides are mad at him because I don't believe he is a loyalist. And I think that the law is above all, and the people that respect the law don't get in trouble, and the people that
it's going to
take advantage of it or abuse it do.
It will come out. It will come out about this Anthony Weiner case and how they sat on this computer. And now we know who actually seized his computer, where it went, right? And it's the same guy. It's this same lawyer that signed off on the Prevezon settlement. As soon as Donald Trump became president and fired Preet Bharara, and then this June Kim guy becomes the acting attorney general, not the attorney general, the Southern District of New York, right? He becomes the deputy U.S. attorney, and he settles the case. You know what's really interesting, though? One of this case was handled by the Southern District of New York's Office of Money Laundering and Asset Forfeiture Unit. And the other attorneys that worked on the case with this June Kim, who was beautifully positioned to sign off on this, is a guy named Paul Monteleone. Now, for those of you who are very interested in details, here's a good one for you to hang on to. Paul Monteleone now works on Mueller's team.
Yeah.
So for those who are wondering, does Mueller know what you know? Paul Monteleone knows exactly what happened in this Prevezon case, and he's on Mueller's team right now.
Well, and the reason I called in now, specifically, is because the guy that said, "Oh, do you think Mueller knows what you know?" And for God's sake, of course, Mueller knows. And the thing with him is,
you know what that is, though? That's people's desperation in wanting this all to come to this whole thing has got to end. I mean, this is mafia stuff, and it's all got to end. Our country is literally, if anybody ever want, and I remember they broke up unions because they said unions were headed by some mob, and the mob was taking money, and there was payoffs, and blah blah blah. Yes, that was unions, okay, and there was some funny money and dirty business and pension fund fraud and all that crap. But if you ever wondered what it would look like if you had a mob boss as the president, this is what it looks like.
But Randy, never forget the most important thing. Never forget Hillary's risotto recipes.
No, they weren't hers. They were Podesta's.
Oh, they're not even hers? So
no.
She can't even get credit for that. Oh,
they were Leon. No, they were Podesta's and his and his like I said, if you're going to do it this weekend, the trick to perfect risotto is to add the broth slowly.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like when you add flour, you have to do it slowly or else you get lump. You get lumpy.
Gosh, the worst.
Anyway, thank you. Thomas in Santa Cruz.
Hi, Randy. We've noticed recently that when it comes to money laundering, proximity breeds suspicion. So if we now look at this Cohen thing, we had the raid. We discovered then that Cohen said he only had a couple of clients, one of which was Trump, and the other one, wonder of wonders, was Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity says, well, I wasn't really a client. I used to talk to him about some real estate things. Then we discover that Sean Hannity has this $90 million real estate empire. And so the suspicion then is we should at least look into the possibility that Sean Hannity, in proximity to Cohen and Trump, could also be involved with money laundering to Russia. They're so close together. It'd be a shame not to at least look into it.
Well, I don't know. I do know that Sean Hannity's portfolio includes a lot of low-income housing units, and that Ben Carson is proposing that we triple the rent on the poorest Americans who live in these low-income housing units. which would benefit Sean Hannity as the landlord, and also would benefit Jared Kushner because he owns a lot of low-income housing units in Baltimore. Sean owns them in Perry, Georgia, and other places. So, yeah, I mean, it's all hand washing. Okay, everybody's taking care of everybody else. Ben Carson is making these HUD guaranteed loans to Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity's buying low-income housing, and then they threaten to raise the rent on the poorest Americans because there is a war on the poor, as evidenced by this great redistribution of wealth through the tax cut, for God's sake, which nobody feels except for the very wealthy. So I think that was how Sean got, greased. I don't think he has anything to do with, Russian money laundering. This predates, well, it doesn't predate Cohen, but it I don't know. I really don't know, but it will all come home to roost. The chickens always do. We will have a day of reckoning in this country. Sean Hannity, as far as I'm concerned, he will be, Bill O'Reilly'd. Do you know, like his own bad behavior will be so exposed that Rupert will say, I've had enough of him.
And Rupert was the one who got Trump ticked off the call yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you know that he was speed dialing the producers at Fox and Friends, telling him, hang up on the president. I mean, they had to hang up on the freaking president. Like, I hang up on people on this show when I'm done with them because they're embarrassing themselves or whatever, or they're not making sense. But, I mean, this is what they did to the president. Like, he was a talk show caller. They just said, oh, Mr. President, you must have a million things to do. Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks, Randy. I've got a million things to do. So
yeah, I hear you. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you. That was so super embarrassing. That was crazy. Okay, for those of you who didn't hear it, which one was it? Is it 19 where he says goodbye? I think it's 19.
When we came down after your first month in office, and we did that big Famous Now interview in the East Room, Ainsley asked you a question to grade your first month in office. Now, fast forward,
they're trying to keep it light now.
Over a year. Last year, you said in the first month, I give myself an A for effort and a C for messaging because you were having trouble, the White House was, explaining what you were doing. How would you grade yourself now?
Look, I'm fighting a battle against a horrible group of deep-seated people, drain the swamp, that are coming up with all sorts of phony charges against me, and they're not bringing up real charges against the other side. So we have a phony deal going on, and it's a cloud over my head, and I've been able to really escape that cloud because the message now everyone knows it's a fix, okay? It's a witch hunt, and they know that, and I've been able to message it. I would give myself an A+. Nobody has done what I've been able to do, and I did it despite the fact that I have a phony cloud over my head that doesn't exist. It was what the Democrats used to try and make an excuse for their loss of an election, for their loss of the Electoral College that they should never lose, because the Electoral College is set up perfectly for the Democrats, and this was an absolute total beating in the Electoral College. They should never lose the Electoral College, and they did, and they got swamped.
But does it make you want to talk to Mueller and put an end to it? Does it make you want to talk to him? Because that's what Rudy Giuliani was.
The problem is that it's such, if you take a look, they're so conflicted. The people that are doing the investigation, you have 13 people that are Democrats. You have Hillary Clinton people. You have people that worked on Hillary Clinton's foundation. They're all, I don't mean Democrats. I mean like the real deal. And then you look at the phony Lisa Page and Strzok and the memos back and forth in the FBI. And by the way, you take a poll at the FBI. I love the FBI. The FBI loves me. But the top people in the FBI,
Wait, so isn't that political?
headed by Comey, were crooked. You look at McCabe, where he takes $700,000 from somebody supporting Hillary Clinton. He takes $700,000 for his wife's campaign. And by the way, didn't even spend that money. They kept some of it because under that law, she took $7. He took $700,000 from a group headed by Terry McAuliffe, who was under investigation by McCabe and the FBI, and that investigation disappeared. He took $700,000. and you look at the corruption at the top of the FBI, it's a disgrace. And our Justice Department, which I try and stay away from, but at some point I won't. Our Justice Department should be looking at that kind of stuff, not the nonsense of collusion with Russia. There is no collusion with me and Russia, and everyone knows it.
Everyone, we could talk to you all day, but it looks like you have a million things to do. But I hope you could join us again, Mr. President. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good luck with your book. It's going to be a winner.
You could.
Randy, they look like all these sane people at Thanksgiving dinner when your uncle just goes nuts on that racist rant, and the rest of the family is just like, oh, God.
I know. And they're trying to get him off because he has just destroyed Michael Cohen's ability to protect himself. He has just completely destroyed it in that half-hour rant that he goes on, trashes his own Justice Department. Andy McCabe took $0 from Terry McAuliffe. It made no sense. He was lying. He was cheating. He was making crap up, and they knew it. And they're just sitting there. You're right, like decent people at the Thanksgiving table when Uncle Cletus goes like crazy on his racist rant, right? And they're like, well, we could talk to you all day, Mr. And he actually says, yeah, you could. Why don't you? Yeah, you could. Why don't? Well, you probably have a million things to do. Thanks for calling. Bye-bye. That's obviously, Rupert Murdoch and other people calling in going, get him off the freaking phone. Get him off the phone. Because Idiot Boy was claiming attorney-client, Michael Cohen was saying attorney-client privilege trumps my client, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, a teeny tiny fraction of my loss, Ugh.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
How great are they? How great are they? I turn on my television one night and I see these two on television. I say, they are the greatest. What is it? They became an internet sensation. I hope you've monetized it a little bit.
What?
You want to do a little routine? Come on, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Florida? Make some noise! We see the media back there and just have a few words to say to them. We will no longer allow you to feed us a narrative full of lies. Hey, Greenville, North Carolina, make some noise. Hillary Clinton. I know. Benghazi. Housing emails on that private server. Missing emails. Pay-for-play schemes. Funneling and tunneling money through that Clinton Foundation. Right.
It is my great honor to introduce to you Diamond and Silk.
Hey! Florida, make some noise! Oh, my God!
All right. So these two girls, they're named... wow. So these two girls who go by Diamond and Silk, that's not their real names. It's Hardaway and Richardson, they're sisters. They showed up at every Trump rally that you could possibly imagine. I mean, we just mashed a few of them up together. It was Kissimmee, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Greenville, North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina. I mean, they kept showing up at they have decided that Facebook is censoring them because they're conservative black women or some such thing. It's not true. They've never been censored. They've never been banned. Their pages have never been taken down. Data from the analytics that you can get. It shows that as they were sitting on Fox News, telling these lies about how they were censored and how their content had been, pulled down, and they were the analytics from their site shows that it hadn't lost any viewers whatsoever. And in fact, what they do, they were posting YouTube posts, and then they were putting money behind their posts, boosting their posts, which is, fine. It's fine. It's what you do. That's how you market yourself on Facebook. You boost your post. Except they were technologically ill-equipped. And so they would put up a video and they would put it up in the wrong format. and they would get a message from Facebook going unavailable for boost, meaning that the format that they were posting in wasn't conducive to putting money behind it and monetizing that particular video or this particular video. And so Facebook kept emailing them and offering help. And they would say, it's a technical issue with how you're posting on your page. Why don't you call us and we'll show you how to post so that you can, spend money with us and boost your stuff. They decided not to answer Facebook's emails, and tons of emails have been produced from Facebook to them, as evidence that Facebook was reaching out. CrowdTangle, which is a analytics firm owned by Facebook, show that the Diamond and Silk page followed normal traffic patterns of peaks and valleys. They were on the uptick into April. They had a 47% increase in likes as soon as they started screaming that they've been banned or pulled down. I mean, none of this really happened is the point, okay? None of it is the point. But they kept going on conservative media. Gateway Pundit, Breitbart. They kept on saying that they were being censored and all this. But Eric Erickson from Red State actually was the person who questioned Hardaway and Richardson, Diamond and Silk's claim that Facebook, they keep saying Facebook didn't communicate with them. They only heard from Facebook on Twitter, which is odd because Facebook doesn't own Twitter. Facebook owns Instagram. So, and why Facebook wouldn't send them an email, because when you have a Facebook account, you obviously have an email that's attached to your account, right? So, but on Monday at 4:46 Pacific time, Neil Potts, who worked at Facebook's product policy department, emailed Hardaway and Richardson at the address listed on their Facebook account to notify them that that they did get a message that was that tagged them as being unsafe for the community, and that message was sent to them in error, and that they should please disregard it. Several hours later at 9:45 p.m. Pacific time, Mr. Potts sent another message, this one CC'd to the email address provided on Hardaway and Richardson's website, saying, I previously sent the following email to the accounts you had on file. I'm resending it to your Diamond and Silk email account as well. I look forward to catching up with you at your earliest convenience. To try and explain to them, like I said, my posts get pulled down sometimes. You have to dispute it, and you have to be like technologically, awake and alert. And when you get, somebody just, trying to pull down your video, you have to dispute it, and you have to say, like in our case, it's always about the music. It's always about the music. And I always have to say, we purchase production music from a company called Audio Blocks, and all music on the Randi Rhodes Show is paid for by this production company called Audio Blocks. Nothing is copyrighted. Nothing is protected. Everything is, we pay for it. We actually pay for it. So you have to do that, and then some other people say, pull down this because this is part of, the Disney network or whatever. Except it's broadcast news, and broadcast news is fair use. So you have to be alert, okay, to protect your own stuff. They didn't answer any of the emails. They didn't, reach out to Facebook when Facebook was telling them you're posting in an incorrect way, and so we see that you're trying to boost your post, meaning you're trying to monetize your post. You're trying to push your posts out for money. That's what you can do on Facebook, right? And that they were doing it wrong, and they wanted to help them. Facebook wanted to help them. Now remember, Facebook personnel was in Brad Pascal's digital operation in Texas. Brad Pascal told us that Facebook had sent an army of people to the Trump campaign to help the Trump campaign advertise to Facebook users. Remember? And it was crazy when he said that. And I mean, I think it was Leslie Stahl on 60 Minutes, and she said, Facebook is actually providing you with... And he goes, yeah. Yeah, we called them. We said we were going to spend a lot of money. And they said, oh, don't worry. We'll send some Facebook experts down. We'll show you exactly how you use Facebook. Remember that? So their claim is crap, all right? Now, I understand people wanting to find the niche, get in the lane, see that, they're making money doing this. being black conservatives. It's a lucrative thing for them. It's the best they've ever done. Of course, you have to remember that Diamond actually used to post for Black Lives Matter after Sandra Bland mysteriously died in jail. Diamond was very, very, very upset about police brutality and all this, but her posts were only getting a few thousand clicks, right? And so all of a sudden, she became, she decided to post for Donald Trump one day, and she saw, woo, like hundreds of thousands of people flock to her, mostly white women, saying, I love these girls, right? Because Donald Trump was talking all this racist crap. And so any, black face, like, the crazy guy from Florida, the guy for Yahweh that holds the sign, Blacks for Trump, that guy, and then his African-American, and then Diamond and Silk. Now, Diamond and Silk started showing up on the campaign trail. Are you telling me that they were paying their own way? No, they weren't paying their own way. They were getting reimbursed for their plane tickets, or their plane tickets were being purchased for them to appear at these Trump rallies. Now, it's all fun and games until somebody lies under oath. Yesterday, there was a hearing, okay? And Diamond and Silk showed up at this hearing trying to scream and yell their way through it, saying that they've been censored and that Facebook never reached out to them and that Facebook doesn't like conservatives. Oh, really? Tell that to Brad Parscale. Tell that to the Trump campaign, Diamond. It makes no sense because Facebook literally sent an army of people to Texas to help the Trump digital campaign efforts. So it makes no sense. But they started lying yesterday so bad. And I mean, they committed perjury. This is just sad. It's all fun and games. Nobody was knocking their racket. Everybody was saying, look, you're running a game. That's fine. You're trying to make money. We get it. Just tell the truth. You're under oath. You do realize you're under oath. And they were just so nasty.
Ms. Hardaway, I think you stated on the record today at least 3 times, quote, we were not paid by the Trump campaign. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, are you aware that your testimony today is under oath subject to the penalty of perjury?
Yes, we are aware of that.
Okay. Now, the FEC report dated May 12, 2017 states that on November 22nd, 2016, the campaign of Donald J. Trump for President Incorporated paid Diamond and Silk $1,274.94 for field consulting. Are you familiar with that?
We're familiar with that particular lie. We can see that you do look at fake news.
Oh, my God.
What happened is, and what should have happened is, you should have come to our mouths to see what exactly happened before a false narrative was put out there about the $1,274.94. So let me explain right now to you and the world.
Hold on one second, because I want to give you the opportunity to explain, which is why I'm asking the question.
Right.
I'm actually trying to figure out, are you calling this FEC document fake? Well, actually, let me get some clarity.
No, we're not calling that fake.
I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond.
Okay.
I'm just really I'm struggling. I'm really just trying to figure out, right? Because you have an FEC document that clearly indicates that the two of you were paid for field consulting by the Trump campaign. That's just one document. There may be others that are out here.
Yeah, there are others.
And presumably, this was a document filed with genuineness and authenticity by the campaign of the president that you so love. And so I'm just trying to figure out,
we understand that this was
is lying here? Is it the Trump campaign, or is someone not telling the truth?
Nobody is lying. However, there may have been a mistake from the Trump campaign whenever they wrote what the $1,274.94 was for. Actually, this was for because we was asked to join the Women for Trump tour back in 2016. And Miss Laura Trump asked that our airline tickets be refunded back to us because we paid for those tickets when we went from New York to Ohio. I have the email right here which substantiate what happened on September the 11th whenever Laura Trump wrote to Allen to tell them to reimburse us. So that $1,074.
I appreciate that explanation. So now let me just ask you one final question.
No, it was for a reimbursement.
I understand.
That's right, not field consultants. I've never been paid by the Trump campaign.
I appreciate that.
just were.
And I'm just trying to figure out whether, consistent with what the president indicated, he urged you to monetize your support for him. And I'm just trying to figure out.
He urged us to monetize our platform, and there's nothing wrong with that. As an African American, you're not going to make us feel guilty because we're going to get out here and we're going to take advantage of these platforms and monetize, just like everybody else do. I don't see you walking up to a white person and saying, "Oh, you shouldn't be monetizing that." So why are you, as an African American, making it?
The gentleman's time is expired.
With us monetizing our platform.
Your game.
The gentleman's
It's not a
time
game.
is expired.
It's not a game.
She's playing the race card on Hakeem Jeffries because she doesn't think that the Federal Election Commission documents are real. She just testified that she got reimbursed for travel by the Trump campaign because they were asked. They were asked by Laura, by one of the Trump son's wife, to be on the campaign, to go into the field, to do these speeches. They don't understand that they were paid by the Trump campaign. Their plane tickets were paid for. This is just, and that there are other documents out there showing that they received free travel to advocate on the stage at the rallies for the Trump campaign. They just don't. I'm telling you, this is just so sad. And they were asked several times, and they said, "We've been censored by Facebook, and Facebook never contacted." But they lied under oath. And, it breaks my heart because people do what they got. Not that they're poor people, okay? Their family owns a ton of businesses in their hometown. Buildings and businesses, Hardaway's Herb Garden, Hardaway's Insurance, Hardaway's Financial Services, Hardaway's Auto Sale. But the cornerstone is Pastor Betty Willis Hardaway, their mother, who writes diet books that say, "Jesus will pray away your waistline."
Doctor drunk on duty?
So let me pose these questions. Ms. Hardaway, have you ever been paid by the Trump campaign?
No. We've never been paid by the Trump campaign.
You've never been paid by the Trump campaign?
We have never been paid by the Trump campaign.
Not $5, not $100?
We have never been paid. We have never been paid by the Trump campaign.
Let me ask a specific question. $1,274.94.
We have never
been
paid.
Ms. Hardaway, my understanding is that you received the now infamous email from Facebook, the email calling your space page unsafe on April 8th, 2018?
No. That was not April the 8th. We received that on April the 5th, 2018.
Now on April 11th, you appeared on the Ingram Angle on Fox News to discuss this matter. The host, Laura Ingram, asked, did you get contacted by Facebook, and has this been reversed? Have you been contacted by Facebook?
We was contacted via Twitter on April the 12th.
You responded, we have not been in communication with Facebook. We have not been contacted. We have not spoken to anyone over the phone.
That's true. We hadn't been in contact with them. We haven't spoken to anyone over the phone.
Right. They said it was in direct communications with us, and we had not been in direct communication.
Did you, on that show, say that you were not contacted?
We were not contacted. We was contacted on the 12th. We was contacted on the 12th via Twitter.
All right. So are you saying that you did not lie on that show, or you did lie?
We did not lie on that show.
Yes, you did.
We did that show on the 11th. We was contacted by Twitter on the 12th.
Yes, you got an email on the 5th, and you got many emails on the 5th. You got an email in the morning, you got an email at night. Eric Erickson at Red State, who is no liberal, got hold of those emails. You were emailed. They called you. You hung up on them. Other people called you. You hang up on everybody. And then you go on Laura Ingram's show and you lie and you say you've been censored and your page was taken. None of this happened. And it's all fun and games on Laura Ingram's show. And it's all fun and games when you stand in standing up at a rally, and it's all fun and games when you're, sitting there, BSing. But you're now under oath, which, Hakeem Jeffries made very, very, very clear to you two that this is a congressional hearing that you asked for so that Congress could look into your censorship on Facebook because, according to you, Facebook doesn't like conservative media, except that they sent hordes of people from Facebook to the Trump digital campaign headquarters to help Trump organize his Facebook campaign. It makes no sense. And they are nasty girls.
By Facebook on the 12th via Twitter.
No, the 5th.
And when we looked in our verifies, there they were.
Is it your testimony today that as of April 11th, when you went on Ms. Ingram's show and said that Mr. Zuckerberg had lied about trying to contact you, that Facebook never reached out to you or Ms. Richardson about this issue?
Mark Zuckerberg said that they was in direct communication with us. That, like they had spoken to us. They did not do that.
Did you get information from Zuckerberg or Facebook?
No.
Any means of communication?
No.
You just said you got it through Twitter.
We got it through Twitter on the 12th, on April the 12th.
The next day.
Hold on for a moment. Miss Jackson, don't try to mince my words. Let me explain to you this here. April the 5th, 2018, they took and they deemed us unsafe to the community and told us it wasn't appealable.
Have you
that was April the 12th is when they...
I am the one asking questions. You're in a judicial committee hearing, and I respect you, and you're going to respect me. Now, my question is, have you gotten contact from Facebook? And Ms. Richardson may want to answer it. Have you?
No.
All right. And you're saying under oath that you did not. And so the Twitter is not communication?
The way you're asking that question is a little confusing. No, you're asking that question and you're missing words right here.
Have you gotten any communication from Facebook?
On April the 12th, via Twitter.
And what mode was that?
That was via Twitter.
All right, and you got information. So your testimony that you did not is not truthful.
You know what? This goes on and on and on and on. And the truth is that even their test, they said on April 5th, they got an email from Facebook. And then they begin to lie and say that they didn't get any communication from Facebook until the 12th. And they went on Laura Ingram's show. And they had Marsha Blackburn, believe it or not, who's, running for the Senate now, screaming that they've been censored in some way.
Facebook's treatment of Diamond and Silk is just the latest example of censoring conservatives' voices.
Oh, my God.
The pro-Trump sisters became a hot topic during Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg's second day of grilling on Capitol Hill today.
Do you subjectively manipulate your algorithms to prioritize or censor speech?
Congresswoman, we don't think about what we're doing as censoring speech. I think that there are types of content like terrorism that I think that we all agree we do not want to have on our service. So we build systems that can identify those and can remove that content, and we're very proud of that work.
Let me tell you something right now. Diamond and Silk is not terrorism.
Zing.
Seriously, dude? No one pulled down their page. Nobody banned them. Nobody, said that they couldn't, They were trying to explain to them, you can't monetize this post or that post because you're technically, illiterate. And you're not putting things up right. Why don't you call us and we'll help you monetize? Meanwhile, this idea that Facebook hates conservatives is so bizarre considering how many Facebook personnel were sent to Trump's digital campaign to help them. It makes no sense. Meanwhile, let me tell you where they come from, okay? Like I said, they own all these buildings, all these businesses in their hometown, okay? Their real names is Anitha and Hernitha. That's, Lynette and Rochelle are Diamond and Silk, but their real name isn't Lynette and Rochelle. Their real name is Anitha and Hernitha, okay? And they're the daughters of Betty Willis Hardaway. Betty Willis Hardaway runs a church that's not even open on Sundays, but she sells like an enormous amount of stuff. She sells Hardaway's Herb Garden Colon Cleanse Parasite. Seriously, for $15.95 out of this church. She also sells a super fat binder package for $79.95. She also does videos, the mother. Praise the Lord, she says in a video posted on Facebook in March. What a blessing it is to be able to come into your homes today. Welcome to the home of the international televangelist, Elder and Evangelist Hardaway, being knit together in love. Pastor Hardaway, she's been a leader in the community, says J.A. McKinney, a minister at a nearby church. They're real people of God. They sell, they try and sell this super fat binder package for $80, $79.95. And the husband and wife sit there and they go, your face is beginning to look so young, right? On there. And they also sell the Blessed Dream Pillow, which is a pillow that is, and blessed dolls for a love offering of $50. Betty will write your name in her gold trim Bible and she will answer your prayers. She also sells door wreaths. Get this door wreath that I believe is a point of contact will ward off witchcraft. We also accept Master and Visa. Okay, that's fine. You know, you do what you got to do. That's fine. If people are going to buy your fat binder or your parasites to stick up your ass, okay, great. I mean, the idea that you do it under the name of Jesus is a little strange, but all right. Now, you can't lie under oath. And I swear to God, you know, this idea that that they can lie under, you know, people are going to go, oh, don't go after those girls. Don't go after I'm so sorry. They need to come and correct their testimony. You know, perjury and lying under oath is fixable. It's fixable. Okay, you don't just automatically go to jail when you spew lies that you've been censored on Facebook and they're taking down your pay. All of this they testified to yesterday under oath. That none of that is true. Okay, none of it is true. They lied over and over again. They were flown by the Trump campaign to various rallies across Ohio, Greenville, Kissimmee, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and these were just the ones that we found, you know, on their YouTube page. I mean, it's so easy to find these, and we just cut them up to save time. But I mean, they were everywhere all the time. And the part that you cut out that's really important is that they would say the same script over and over again. The same script. Oh, we welcome our veterans and we love law enforcement. And what's really creepy about that is that Diamond was very much disturbed by law enforcement's police brutality after Sandra Bland turned up dead. But those videos weren't getting hit enough. So when she started doing it for Trump, she went from 1,300 to 380,000. And she realized this is a business. Fine. You want to spend your life lying to yourself and others? Fine. It's your choice. But you can't lie under oath. They need to be called back to Congress, or they need to get a lawyer, and that lawyer needs to get sworn statements from them correcting their lying testimony. Period. Because if it was the other way around, if I had gone to Congress, I've been to Congress, I've been under oath in front of Congress, I have testified on media issues, I sat next to Al Franken when Al Franken and I worked together, I've sat next to, you name it, we have testified about how many conservative hours of radio there are, the effects of the telecommunications. I mean, we've done it. I've done it. I've been under oath. I have given testimony. I have given written testimony. I've had it admitted to the record, and it all has to be true, and it all has to be fact-checked, and it all has to comport with, the truth. And they can go and they can lie? No, I'm sorry. It just doesn't work that way. It just does. I was going to get into a Twitter war with them last night, and then I thought, why am I doing this? I can go on my show and I can clearly show what they said was a lie. There's analytics, there's data, and believe me, these Congress members had it in front of them. They went easy on them because they felt bad for them, because they didn't know what they were talking about. But I swear to God, these two girls are a disgrace. And to play the race card so you could lie, that is the last bastion of scoundrels, my friend. You know, Trump is very unpopular in the African-American community. He only got 8% of the black vote, and this is one of the reasons. people like Ben Carson waging wars, against low-income housing and SNAP, and it's just unbelievable. And these two girls going out there and lying under oath, and it's not a little thing. It's not a little thing. It's just disgusting. They just couldn't assert racism. They actually said, well, if Latinos can go, be here illegally and they could have access to the American dream, why can't we? You can. What you can't do is lie under oath. The truth doesn't have a color, Diamond. The truth doesn't have a color, Rochelle. Hereditha. All right, I got 5 podcasts to give away right now to the first 5 callers at 1-561-270-3844. These are the last of the wonderful generosity of Mr. Mark. 5 more, and that'll close out, his gift to you. First 5 callers at 561-270-3844. Thank you very much. Please support the show over the weekend. Share this video, which is, where we post it on Facebook for you to have this Friday show every Friday for free. Enjoy the show. We do love you. I'm so excited that we are getting so close. So close. Buy a stinking podcast.